Blast off. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the agenda committee for the Public Works Committee of the Metro Nashville Council's regular scheduled committee meeting. It's Tuesday, April 6th at 4 p.m. I'm going to start out with the roll call. Council Member Henderson.
Present.
Council Member Allen.
Present.
Thank you. Council Member Benedict. I see you. Council Member Bradford, I see you.
Present.
Council Member Evans.
Chair, trying to navigate two meetings.
Okay, I'll mark you present. Council Member Evans.
Present.
Council Member Gamble.
Present.
Council Member Hall. Council Member Hall. Chair is present. Council Member O'Connell. Council Member O'Connell. Council Member Roden. Council Member Roden. Council Member Young.
Present. Excuse me. I thought I clicked unmute, but I didn't.
Thank you. All right, we got a quorum.
Chairman?
Yes.
Excuse me, this is Councilwoman Benedict. I'm here.
Yeah, I got you present. I saw you. Waiting on Hall, O'Connell, and Roden. I'm sure they'll sign in here shortly. I'm going to make a motion pursuant to Governor Lee's Executive Order number 78 regarding electronic meetings. I make a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Director, you want to take the roll call?
Sure. Allen.
Aye.
Benedict.
Aye.
Bradford. Aye. Evans.
Aye.
Campbell. Aye. Henderson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
Dash.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. The chair doesn't have a report, although we did get, obviously we've all been dealing, or at least the folks out south, and have been dealing with this flooding issue. I want to thank Public Works for doing their best to get around and help with the cleanup. I know in the neighborhood that Council Member Johnston and I share, they've been really busy, and it certainly helps try to get folks back to a little sense of normalcy as they're doing this major repair work. I also had a question sent to me earlier in the week from Member Evans. I have a question for next week's Public Works Committee meeting. Can the director explain what the process is for the floodplain to be expanded? I have residents, a couple of neighborhoods asked me that, and I think someone from Water Services might be available here to speak to that issue. Tom Pelko?
Yes, Chairman Nash, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, so there's a lot I could say about how we do this process. And when I say we, it's because we've done studies like this ourselves. FEMA does the studies with their own contractors, and then sometimes the Corps of Engineers. And what we're dealing with right now is our current set of flood insurance rate maps. The studies were done by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They submit those to FEMA, and then FEMA adopts them and draws the maps. And that's a rather lengthy process. So to start with, we don't have any preconceived notion of where the floodplain is when you do a study. What we're trying to determine is where the 1% flood would cover And I say the word 1% flood because there's a lot of confusion when you say 100-year flood. When you say 100-year flood, people think, well, it's only going to happen once every 100 years. And how can we've had one 11 years ago and had another one now? So FEMA has been trying to get away from calling it a 100-year flood for that very reason for a long time now. And we're really referring to it as a 1% flood. And what that means is that the rainfall event, a 100-year rainfall event, has a 1% chance of happening in any given year. You know, unfortunately, in 2010, we had a 100-year rainfall event on Saturday, followed by a 100-year rainfall event on Sunday. You could have had, you had a 1% chance of having one the next day, but luckily it didn't happen. So when we do these studies, the first thing we do is determine what flows to what points in the stream. So you go to the bottom of the stream, you look up, and everything that flows to it, that's that watershed. As you move up the stream, you cut the watershed into smaller pieces, and you try to pick points where the water is going to come into the stream, at different points where minor tributaries come in. And so you use hydrology, and you look at what the ground cover, you look at, what's on the land. And so you come up with how much water is going to be added to the stream at any given point based on hydrology methods. Once you figure that, then you've got to look at the stream itself and say, well, how much can this stream carry? How much of this water is going to be in the stream, and how much of this water is going to flow in the overbank areas? And the overbank areas is what we call the floodplain, the 1% floodplain. And keep in mind that most normal natural streams can only carry a 2-year design storm. So you expect that these creeks are going to overflow almost every year. Now, do they always overflow to the extent we have this week? Well, no. So again, to think that we could channelize the streams or deepen the streams or widen the streams or whatever to carry the amount of water that, as you said in a previous conversation this week, all of that water that was flowing down Evanston Pike, there's just no way it's going to be contained in the channel itself. So that's how we determine where the floodplain is. We take those numbers, we take that amount of water that's coming into the creek, we look at the creek itself, we measure the width of the creek, we look at the bridges, because in an urban situation, what happens at the bridges is vitally important. And that's why us in Public Works, get out after these storms and try to make sure that these bridges are as clean as possible for the next rain event, because again, what happens at the bridges is vitally important. So when we do all that, that sets what's the 100-year floodplain, and it sets those lines on the map. Now the floodway is the central part of the 100-year floodplain, 1% flood, and the floodway is determined as the part that the stream needs to convey the water flowing downstream. So everything's going to be wet in the floodplain, but the floodway, that water is moving with purpose downstream, downhill. It's moving fast. And that, as we all have determined, and as we all know, based on the number of cars and sheds and everything that move, number of fences that get knocked down, the floodway is also a very critical point. And that's why after the May 2010 flood, the Metro Council got together and said, let's make sure everybody understands that we are not going to build any more structures in the floodway from this point forward. And so you all passed legislation after May 2010 that said no new structures in the floodway. So for us, what we're dealing with is that we did not have any flood maps in Davidson County until 1982, and no stormwater regulations until slightly before that in 1979. So the house I live in was built in 1958. It was built without the same kind of standards we have today. So what we require today is that we do not allow any new construction in the floodway. And if you're going to be built in the floodway fringe, in the floodplain fringe, you have to elevate your house 4 feet above the flood elevation. So again, if we had to look at this today and the areas along Evanston Pike and Suter Drive and West Durrett, Legion Fields, Paragon Mills, all those homes would be set much farther back from the stream, and there would actually be rows of houses that would not be built today. So what we're faced with, again, is trying to handle a situation where a lot was built in this community, before we knew any better, before we had any regulations. And that's why in the past, 20 years of my career, I've been here 30 some odd years, but in the last 20 years or so, we have bought 400 houses because I can't control the stream to the point that I'm going to save these houses from flooding again. So we think it's imperative to get in there and get these houses and get them out of there. So that kind of is my prepared remarks, I guess. And I'd be glad to answer any questions and talk about things I didn't touch on.
Chair,
See
this is
Councilmember
Councilman
Bradford's hand up. Councilmember Bradford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. My question, this deals with the home buybacks, but also may, Councilmember Allen, who's also on affordable housing, might help. My question is, it's great that we're willing to look into buying these homes to prevent future flooding, but at the same time, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot because now we're taking housing stock off the market. So has there been any talks or any discussion about how we kind of negate that effect? Are we making sure that for every house we buy back that something's going into affordable housing so that we're not adding to our housing problem? Again, I don't know if this is a stormwater question or maybe something from someone from the housing committee could answer, but that's been my question once this conversation about buying homes started in earnest after the flood.
Yeah, so you know, I'm an engineer of stormwater, so I don't think that this totally falls in my realm. But the current project we're doing on Mill Creek and 7 Mile Creek with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, they will actually pay more than fair market value if there's no available housing stock that's comparable. So when we go and again, so when you go buy these, we set what the fair market value is, but again, if there's nothing in the neighborhood or in the area, then they can pay a 10% more, a little more to help with that. We always say though too is that, you know, affordable housing needs to be safe housing, and as you've seen in this last flood, I don't think we're providing a safe, affordable housing in some of these neighborhoods. So again, it's a bigger picture than what we're dealing with, but with the core project, they also pay to relocate the folks that live there, whether they be a tenant or an owner, they will pay relocation expenses as well. We've not done that in past FEMA projects. FEMA projects, they have a different set of rules, different way of doing things. But with the Corps of Engineers, we do have those 2 enhancements to this project where it's, you know, they do look at where they're going to go to, and they do help them cover expenses for moving.
Thank you, Tom. Does that answer your question, Councilmember
It
Bradford?
answers it from the public works side. I really think this does kind of go to lead to a conversation with affordable housing advocates, see how we can both protect property by buying up these homes, but also making sure that we're not adding to our already short supply of housing.
Council Lady Evans, and then Van Rees.
Thank you, Chair Nash, and thank you, Mr. Palco, for all that information. And I know we're playing phone tag, and you're going to share more information with me about the housing buyback program, since I have one house I know of in my area that's been flooded 8 times since 2010. But I guess I have a follow-up question that's really related more to the development created flooding issues that we have. Like I just was on the phone prior to this call with a couple of residents who we've got development in progress, and the first time that they've ever had any flooding issues. And it's been because some natural things that have been filled in, like sinkholes, as part of this development process. We're losing some of those natural ways in addition to trees, you know, to be able to mitigate some of the flooding challenges that we have. And so how do we look at different standards or improved standards on the stormwater side for developments that are already in progress or future developments, because there's some things happening now in my area that give me pause, like, is this going to create a worse flooding issue for these particular neighborhoods by these developments moving forward?
Sure, thank you. So yes, so any kind of large development, you know, we've had in place for a long time that they have to do. We have a pretty strict set of stormwater regulations. So if you're building a large development like let's say a Walmart, and if it's a grass field, it's now going to be a Walmart. They have to put in detention ponds and other water quality devices to make it look so there's not an impact. So there's not an impact of downstream neighbors. So that there's not a big rush of water off this. So that's been in place for years. And then also been in place for several years now has been even all the way down to infill development, where if I tear down one house and build 2 back, we're making measures be put on those properties as well to control some of that increase. So they do have, if there's anything over 800 square feet of new impervious on a property, they have to put in rain gardens or infiltration trenches, or you have to put on something to mitigate the extra runoff that's going to be generated from the larger rooftops. So we feel like we have a very stringent set of regulations, and it's easy for folks to say, well, nothing happened until they built that gas station next to me or something else next to me. And when I look at it from an engineering standpoint, a lot of time it's just the timing of it. Just because each rain is different, each flood is different, and you could have what seem to be two similar rains that could be greatly different. This rain event we had this past couple weekends ago was in the winter, which means that there's no leaves on the trees. And it was also at an event where we had rain the previous weekends in what is now the second wettest March. So when we had the rain, when you have 7 inches of rain on supersaturated conditions at the end of the wettest month of the month, it's all going to be runoff. And the world felt like everything was paved at that point. So even if you had, again, at that point, development is not really the issue. It's the moisture conditions that were existed before the rain event, and then again, 7 inches of rain in little more than a 24-hour period, it's going to do what happened.
I think that answers my question, but I guess I think about so if this is the worst case scenario and there was flooding, then and I can take it offline too, because I think I've got some questions that are specific to my area, but like in the cases where, these retention ponds were overflowing and that was, and then it was flooding into the street and at people's houses. So I guess my question still is, are our standards to the worst case scenario? And that's kind of what I think about. So I know that's not an easy answer, but like I said, I can take it offline, and maybe there's some specific developments I can look at with you and your team to review and reassure people, or kind of call out some of the things that people are wanting to do from a rezoning perspective.
We have folks in stormwater that part of their normal job is to do exactly what you've asked us to do, is to go look at developments. And even if we think, oh, that can't be true, we will go look at everything, and sometimes we are surprised. Well, yes, they didn't do something right. So we'd be glad to talk specifics with you and go look at individual properties. And we do, when we map the floodplain, we are mapping the existing floodplain based on existing conditions. You can map what the future conditions may be if you can foresee what it's going to be. 20 years ago, we never envisioned that the infill development would be as intense as it is. So the old maps didn't include that. The maps that we have now that are dated 2017, they did try to pick up and look at what is occurring, what the zoning is. But we do only regulate to what's existing conditions.
Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Van Rees, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. I apologize again, colleagues, for my vocal cord issue, but I just wanted to chime in because so much had happened in District 8 along the Gibson Creek that I am a firm believer of the flood buyout program. It quite frankly has saved lives. And I completely agree that we have to keep an eye on affordability, but it has to be safe housing and not just the best I could get and I hope it doesn't rain housing. And we need to be responsible for that. The best way to answer affordable housing is for each of us to find places in our district to place affordable housing. And so I think that we continue to work on that individually, but we cannot continue to have people flooded out. A lot of these properties are rented properties. Somebody even from out of state may own it, and
right.
they're not taking care of their tenants, and they don't have flood insurance, and it dries out just long enough for them to rent it again.
Yep.
And so the best thing to do is to get them out of the way so that we can get people into safe housing. And I just appreciate the opportunity to put my 2 cents on it, because the folks along Gibson Creek can testify to the fact that it not only creates beautiful green space, which you can talk to Root Nashville about putting trees on if you want. But it quite frankly saves lives. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on that. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome, Councilmember. Okay. Councilmember Gamble, you're up, and then Russ Bradford again.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Palco, for all of the information. I do appreciate what you all are doing with the buyback program for homes in the floodway. My question is, are there any, or is there anything being done proactively to address homes that are in the floodway that haven't been flooded yet, but over the years, particularly in my district, we have homes close to Ewing Creek and Whites Creek that have been fortunate so far not to have flooded, but those streams are inching ever so closer to their homes. Are we doing anything to mitigate that stream bank widening, or is there anything that can be done to do that so that those who are in their homes that are in the floodway might have a chance of staying there safely?
Yeah, so far as like major capital projects to make the streams wider, we don't have anything in that regard, and for 2 reasons. Number one is that you can't get permits to do it from an environmental standpoint, and the bigger issue for us is that it just doesn't work. I mean, when you see the amount of water that was flowing in these floods, again, there's just no way to make that ditch, that creek, large enough to do that. So for those 2 reasons, it doesn't work. Now, what we saw prior to 2010 was that, just like you said, we knew that these maps had houses in the floodplain that we never, in my years, I never saw them flood before. And then boom, 2010 hit, and we had West Hamilton Road and Delray Drive, severe flooding that we'd never seen before. So we have been buying houses throughout these districts: Mill Creek, 7 Mile Creek, Whites Creek, Browns Creek. We've been buying them out over the years, and it just depends again on what local funds we can use, what federal funds we can capture either through FEMA or through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And what we expect is going to happen this time again is that if this flood becomes a presidentially declared disaster area, then FEMA will be able to provide some mitigation grants that we could go after to buy out more houses. So we look for all the opportunity, and the easiest houses to buy are the ones that are on FEMA's watch list because they've had flood insurance and they filed claims over and over and over again. Those are the ones that are easy to buy because FEMA knows about them and they're draining their bank account basically. So those are the easy ones. And then again, with the different grants, we're always looking towards, the future, but, here lately, like when we did the Gibson Creek buyout, that was a couple of years after the May 2010 flood. We had a major event up there. And so we tried to be current and buy, where the existing needs are, also trying to look at what the future is coming, but there's just not enough to go around to do everything we need to do in any given year.
Right, I appreciate that. Is there anything we can do to inform our constituents and residents who are in the floodway, haven't been flooded yet, so they're probably not on the FEMA list, but each year the risk of them flooding gets greater. Is there anything we can do to help them start the process of getting on the buyback list or anything?
There's a couple things they would need to do. Number one is we have elevation certificates for a lot of these houses. And what the elevation certificate shows is what we think the flood elevation is and where we think their floor elevation is. And it's all about risk. If it turns out that their floor elevation is 2 feet or 3 feet above the flood elevation, then they have to make a decision on whether they should carry flood insurance or not. I would encourage them to, because they would get a good rate. If they're 4 or 5 feet below the flood elevation, then like you say, it's an event that they're waiting on to happen that's gonna flood them. So if they're that low, then obviously, definitely they need to carry flood insurance. But again, if there's any risk at all, homeowners insurance policy is not going to do it. So the first thing I would do is see if we have one of those certificates and see where they are so they can understand what the risk is. But I would encourage to have flood insurance and encourage to file a claim if they do have a loss.
Thank you. You're on mute, Chair.
Sorry, let me unmute. I'm going to recognize Councilmember Bradford, then Councilmember Hurt, and then I think we'll kind of call an end to the session on flooding and get back to our regular agenda. There seems to be enough interest. If need be, we can have a special call meeting and have a real discussion about flooding and some of these other issues about buyouts and the like. Okay, Councilmember Bradford, you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Just one last question. When you mentioned when we're getting back to development and flood mitigation. So if developers give you a plan and they say we're going to replant trees that we're removing or we're going to plant trees, do you ask them like what types of trees, or you give them a list of, well, here's a certain species of trees that are really good water absorption trees to kind of help mitigate? Or do you just, do you make recommendations on tree species based on water?
We don't really have the ability to do that, but we do prefer local trees. Local trees, and again, if you're going to be, planting them in a wet environment, close to a stream, then trees that are suitable for that environment. So I don't think that the codes administrators are looking, or the plan reviewers are looking at that. But typically the folks that are designing these mitigation plans or these planting plans, they understand and they're planting the right trees in the right spots.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Council Lady Hurd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Palco, I'm just concerned about how you all prioritize those particular homes or bridges that you repair or not repair. I do know that the American Rescue Act money that is coming to Nashville, specifically, they are looking for those monies to be used to repair bridges and sewages and other things of this nature. I don't know what efforts that you all have, but do you have any efforts to appeal to the administration to ensure that funds are utilized for a specific purpose? Because they also wanted to make sure that households are who have been impacted by these kinds of things are also addressed. So being that you've got two issues, and I was a council member assigned to District 1, and I know of some real problems in District 1, and there's not been much attention given to that district, and I'm just very concerned that we've not prioritized them.
Yeah, again, we would love any financial assistance that comes to us from any source outside of Metro, because it just helps our monies go that much further. So, anything that we can get, like I say, we do stuff through the Corps of Engineers and FEMA and those other projects that you're talking about. I'd love to hear more about what funds are available.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palco. You did a good job on the fly. We appreciate it very much.
You're welcome, man. I'd be glad to come back anytime. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Back to regular agenda. I'm going to start out with things I've picked out as consent, so I'll read through those. Obviously, if you disagree in any or we need to put some back on regular order, please note it. We'll put them back on. Looking at resolutions on page 2, on consent is resolution RS 2021-862, Hauser, Toombs, Murphy, Nash, and Suara. Approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and Metro Public Works for signal maintenance for road safety audit, Rampquay I-40 interchange at State Route 251, exit 199. Resolution RS 2021-863, O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash authorizes 6th South Partners LP to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 530 60 Avenue South. Resolution RS 2021-864, Parker, Toombs, Murphy, Nash, and Welch approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and Metro Public Works for the repairing and existing pavement failures and restructuring of 1.70 miles of East Trinity Lane. Top of page 3, Resolution RS 2021-865 approves an application for a hazard mitigation grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Metro Water and Sewage Services for flood mitigation. Going on to page 4 and bills on second reading. Page 5, bill number 2021-681, O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash. Renames a portion of Davidson Street from 8th Avenue South to 9th Avenue South to Old Division Street. Bill 2021-862, O'Connell, Murphy, Nash, authorizes Mill Creek Residential Trust, LLC to install, construct, and maintain underground and aerial encroachments in the right-of-way located at 810 Division Street. Bill number 2021-683, Hancock, Murphy, and Nash, abandons existing sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manhole, and easements to accept new sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for 5 properties located on Neely's Bend Road, also known as Fox Valley Subdivision. Page 6, bill number 2021-684, O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash, accepts new public water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for 8 properties located on Adams Street, Taylor Street, and First Avenue North, also known as the Newhoff Development. Bill number 2021-685, O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash, accepts a new sanitary sewer manhole and easement for property located at 800 4th Avenue South. Bill number 2021-686, Murphy and Nash, abandons existing water main and a portion of a certain public utility easement for property located at 2128 Murfreesboro Pike. And last on page 7, bill number 2021-687, Murphy and Nash, abandons an existing sanitary sewer main, a sanitary sewer manhole and easements to accept a new sanitary sewer main, a sanitary sewer manhole and easements at 5 properties located on Edgewood Road, Kenwood Drive, and Twin Circle Drive, off-site of the project located at 2760 Murfreesboro Pike, known as the Villages of Forest View. Do we need to take any of those items off the consent agenda? Seeing none, and seeing no hands up for discussion, Mr. Director, will you take the roll call on the consent agenda?
Allen,
He had to step away for another meeting, I believe.
okay.
He's
Benedict,
gonna try and keep.
Aye.
Bradford,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Gamble,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Hurt, Nash,
Aye.
O'Connell,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
8 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Director. Going back to page 1, first item on the agenda, RS 2021-794, Rutherford, Nash, and Allen approves a memorandum of understanding to transfer solid waste disposal responsibility from the Department of Public Works to the Department of Water and Sewerage Services, along with related operational activities, personnel, and equipment. I will move the resolution. We have a second.
Second.
O'Connell seconds.
Second. Would you like to, is it time to move the amendment, Mr. Director?
Yes, you can go to Councilmember O'Connell, who's carrying the amendment.
Yeah, I see a hand by Councilmember Henderson. Do you want to make comment?
Yes, Chair.
On the bill before we go to the amendment?
No, sir. I just wanted to bring to your attention a late filed amendment by Councilwoman Murphy that should be in y'all's inbox as well. And I intend to bring that to rules for late file, but would also like it to be a part of the discussion here today, as I think it might be helpful. Effectively, it's a sunset amendment that the administration supports. And so I can, at an appropriate time, I can read the text of that brief amendment. I'll defer to Mr. Cooper and you, Chair, on the order of operations, but I just wanted you to be aware. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm going to recognize Mr. O'Connell for his amendment, and then we'll go to the second amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move my amendment, and once I get a second, I'm happy to provide a brief comment.
Second.
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 Lots of seconds. You're recognized, Member O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it is, I think in lengthy discussion with the administration about the nature of this, right? I have spoken with them many times about the nature of the Department of Transportation, which I support. I think many colleagues do support moving in that direction. I think, like many colleagues, I was a little surprised at the pathway we are pursuing to get there. I do understand that prior to a charter amendment, there are not a lot of good options to kind of just start to change large operational pieces of Metro, but that this memorandum of understanding arrangement could work. I think, though, that if we look at peer analysis, I feel much better about this being considered an interim arrangement. And in that interim arrangement, I want to make sure, given where we have been with the lack of available information to council that has unfortunately left us in the dark previously about primarily financial condition of the department, I want to make sure that as we transfer a major operational function of Metro on an interim basis, that we have appropriate transparency and oversight. And so this amendment provides on a quarterly basis reporting sufficient to give us what I think should be enough information to judge the efficacy of that interim performance. And I'm very grateful to the administration for working with me to get to this point. I do think that the better long-term arrangement would probably be a standalone solid waste entity to handle this function. But as an interim solution, I think with this amendment, I can support the approach the administration is pursuing here. So I do encourage colleagues to support this amendment.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. We've had a lot of discussions and special call meetings. Any discussion tonight on this amendment? Seeing, Council Lady Benedict, you recognized?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to let the committee know that I do support this amendment. We talked about it. Well, we've talked about this resolution a lot, but I think that this is a great amendment that has been brought forward by Councilmember O'Connell that really is going to help bring that transparency that I'm looking for as we move forward with this. So I appreciate the amendment, and once again, I'm going to support it. I hope that the committee will as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady Benedict. Anyone else? Seeing none, Mr. Director, will you take the vote on the amendment?
Allen? Benedict?
Aye.
Bradford?
Aye.
Evans?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Henderson?
Aye.
Hurt? Nash?
Aye.
O'Connell?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
8 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Recognize Council Lady Henderson. Do you want to do the honor of introducing amendment number 2, or at least explaining it?
Thank you, Chair. You all will find in
We have a letter from Murphy.
Thank you. I'm here on behalf of Council Lady Murphy, and equally in support of her effort here, which is in a similar vein to Councilman O'Connell's. just in the kind of in the space of accountability and giving us the opportunity to assess where things are. As presently written, the MOU says the term of this memorandum shall be indefinite. And so this changes it to just read it to you for 3 years, beginning on the effective date. The term of the memorandum may be extended by a resolution adopted by the Metropolitan Council. And then it retains also the language presently in this section. Either party may terminate this memorandum with written notice delivered to the director of the other department to be effective not sooner than 90 days after delivery. And again, that's existing language. So it just kind of reworks that paragraph about effectiveness and changes the language from indefinite to 3 years. As I understand from Council Lady Murphy, this is supported by the administration. So I don't know if Mr. Jameson or Mr. Massimo or somebody representing them might speak to that to give you the confidence in this amendment.
Mr. Jameson, do you have anything to add? That seems pretty straightforward.
Nothing to add, just to confirm that that is in fact correct. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you. Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Chair. So I know we've had several meetings and people have heard me kind of voice my concerns and skepticism, as it were. I really appreciate this amendment. Conversations I've had with the mayor's office, I really stated that I didn't want this to become another stormwater project where it takes 10 years before we actually do a charter or we do something. And I wanted to see an actual definite date for when we would go to the next step. So I really appreciate Councilmember Murphy's amendment that pretty much sets it to a 3-year limit unless it gets council approval. So with that, I'm going to be supporting this amendment, and it moves me a lot closer to supporting the overall resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bradford. Any other discussion? I don't see any hands. Director Cooper, you want to do the honors for Amendment 2?
Sure. Benedict?
Aye.
Bradford?
Aye.
Evans?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Henderson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Aye.
Nash?
Aye.
O'Connell?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Director Cooper. Okay, and now I guess we go back to the bill as amended. Mr. O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think with the bill as amended, I too support Councilmember Murphy's amendment. I think these amendments give council appropriate opportunities to review the arrangement as we go forward. I would encourage colleagues to principally consider this arrangement as an interim arrangement that allows us to start to pilot a Department of Transportation and not a permanent transition of solid waste functions to Metro Water. That is how I'm personally viewing it as we do this. But with these amendments and understanding the administration's intent, particularly in the DOT, I'm comfortable with the resolution and plan to support it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Any other? Seeing no other hands, Director Cooper?
Allen? Benedict?
Aye.
Bradford?
Aye.
Evans?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Henderson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Aye.
Nash?
Aye.
O'Connell?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Director Cooper. And then we move to page 3 of the agenda. Bill number 2020-492 by Rosenberg amends the Metro Code pertaining to weight restrictions on certain roads. Council Member Rosenberg, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is going to be deferred by rule in the meeting tonight, so I would ask for a one meeting deferral on committee as well, please.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Lots of seconds. All right. Any discussion on the motion to defer? Mr. O'Connell?
Sorry, that's stale. My bad, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So I see no hands. Director Cooper on the one meeting deferral?
Benedict,
Aye.
Bradford,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Hurt,
Aye.
Nash,
Aye.
O'Connell,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Director. Next bill for consideration, bill number 2020-493, Sledge Cash, Allen and Taylor, amends the Metro Code of Laws relative to night parking restrictions. Councilmember Sledge, are you present?
Mr. Chair, this one is also deferred by rule, one meeting.
Okay, we don't need to vote on it, do we?
No, it'll be automatically deferred.
Automatic deferral, okay. Automatic deferral one meeting, moving on. Now, page 4, bill number 2021-646, O'Connell, Nash, Hancock, and Welch, makes amendments to various provisions of Titles 2 and 12 of the Metro Code to facilitate the implementation and operation of a smart parking program. And then we also have several proposed substitutes. Do I have a motion to get the bill on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. I see Mr. O'Connell's hand. You're recognized. Oop, you're muted.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Sorry, Mr. Chair. I would encourage the committee to, I do not intend to move my substitute, which just had a technical correction. If the committee would approve Councilmember Parker's substitute, which would be my encouragement. It's the one I intend to support. I know he has worked it out collaboratively with the administration, and I'd be move that, allow him to discuss. So, Mr. Chair, I guess I would move the second substitute.
Have a motion for the second substitute.
Second.
Second.
And a second, Councilmember Parker. Are you here? Yes, I see you recognized.
Yes, Chair. Thank you for the recognition. So if y'all recall, I had initially offered a substitute which would have just essentially not allowed any privatization to go forward whatsoever. And that was rigorously opposed by the administration. So over the last couple of weeks, I worked with Ms. DeMassimo and Mike Jamison and others with the administration to kind of come up with something that that we were all a little more comfortable with. So what this substitute does is it limits the initial term of any private parking enforcement and management contract to 5 years. And as well, it raises the bar for extension of any such contract that it would need to be renewed by a 3-reading ordinance rather than a 1-reading resolution. So I think that gives us more opportunity to have a discussion 5 years from now about where this program is, what the revenues look like. We can at that point take a look at, can these new revenues support Metro FTEs, which I think is the goal of a lot of council members, and it sounds it might even be a goal of the administration, depending on how the program is structured. So I would encourage colleagues to support this substitute. I believe it does have administration support. If Mr. Jameson would like to confirm that, I'd be happy to turn it over to him.
Councilmember, or former Councilmember Jameson, you have a comment?
Just to confirm and to thank Councilman Parker for his collaboration. Thank you.
I see Councilmember O'Connell's hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think, again, I just want colleagues to be clear with the substitute and all of this, that this is not the RFP. Approving this is not approving itself privatization of anything related to our parking infrastructure. It is basically an update to the Metro Code of Laws to allow some flexibility that Mr. Parker, I think, has helpfully constrained, and I would encourage colleagues to support the second substitute.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Anybody else? Seeing none, Director Cooper, you want to take the vote on the proposed substitute 2?
Allen,
Aye.
Benedict,
Aye.
Bradford,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Hurt,
Aye.
Nash,
Aye.
Connell,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Director Cooper. Now on the bill. Do we have any discussion on the bill as substituted? Seeing none, go for it, Director.
Allen,
Aye.
Benedict,
Aye.
Bradford,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Hurt,
Aye.
Nash,
Aye.
O'Connell,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Next bill for consideration, bill number 2021-677, Allen Nash and Sledge, amends the Metro Code Chapter 10.20 waste management by adding Article 5 to allow for the Metro government to recover costs for development plans reviewed by the Department of Public Works related to waste management. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move for approval.
We have a motion.
Second.
And second? Did you want to say anything else, Councilmember Allen, before I recognize Council Lady Henderson and Mr. O'Connell?
Sure, just to give a brief explanation. So this does two things. It sets up a process for a graduated fee structure, which we currently don't have right now. When someone is getting a demolition permit and we say, what's your waste management plan? It costs the same to review a small one as a massive one. So this acknowledges that it takes more time to review those. And in the process, we are working to make the construction industry just more aware of all the options for recycling construction materials as part of the demolition process, as opposed to filling up a landfill. So the hope is to not need to have a C&D landfill anymore because we can use all those parts again. So that's as much as I would say, and I would yield to Council Members O'Connell and Henderson.
And I don't see any other hands up right now except for Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Chair. My question for Public Works, do they have any indication of how much revenue this will generate each year based on what we're currently seeing or not?
Thank you. If this is Sharon Smith, thank you, Councilman, for the question. At this point, and it appears there's just a little bit of confusion here, there's no fee being charged because this is a new program that we're going to be starting. We're taking a section of Metro Code 1628040, which requires developers to submit a plan on how they're going to manage debris on the site. But at this point in time, no plans have been required. And so we have worked with the codes department to take on the review, the creation of what the solid waste plan should look like and the review of those plans, because right now this falls under the building code. But we have been for some time trying to have an opportunity to educate developers. So we're taking this on at Public Works. We're going to charge just the cost of recovery, which is a little bit over $100,000 total per year, and require that developers submit a plan, which will then explain or give them the opportunity to explain what types of debris they think they'll have on site and what they're planning to do with that. They're not required to recycle, but what that does is gives us the opportunity to then provide them information on here are haulers that will take those certain types of material, here are recyclers that will accept them, actually go out to their job site and help them set up recycling and things like that as a way to educate and try and get more reduction in the waste that we're landfilling currently.
So this is basically new revenue that has been identified?
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate that clarification, those answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Young.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. While I was listening to that, I was rereading the analysis and answered my own question. So trying to be efficient. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other hands? Seeing none. Director Cooper?
Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Bradford?
Aye.
Evans?
Aye.
Gamble?
Aye.
Henderson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Aye.
Nash?
Aye.
O'Connell?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. On to Bill number 2021-679 by Rosenberg, amends the Metro Code of laws to clarify exemptions applicable to vehicle emissions sensors. You're recognized, Councilmember Rosenberg.
Am I back?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this affects the section of our code on surveillance. As I understand it, Councilmember Gamble can correct me if this isn't correct, but I believe that she discovered while looking through the code that the portion that speaks to emissions, the emissions exception, did not allow the identification of the car owner, which makes it difficult to notify somebody that they've passed emissions. So this, as requested by the administration, addresses that, and it substitutes instead not allowing to retain the geographic location of the read. Overall, this is about emission sensors. There's a program that is hoped to be brought in the future that would allow a sensor by the side of the road to read the emissions output, and if a driver passes emissions, they would not have to go to one of our emissions centers for testing. They would be notified that they passed. There would be no penalty or anything like that for somebody who didn't pass. There would be no action at all. So that's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Rosenberg. Councilmember Gamble, you're recognized.
Thank you, Councilman Rosenberg, for that explanation. One question. Now that we'll be identifying those who pass the emissions or who pass by the emissions sensor, will we also be sending letters to those who fail the emissions or just those who pass?
My understanding, I'm sorry.
And I don't know, that may be for Director Cooper. I don't know.
I have asked that question before from the health department, and they will only be sending letters to those folks who pass. And that's within a certain time frame. I mean, if you get your emissions tested one day and you pass one of those things the next day, they're not going to send you another notice that you passed. But those who don't pass, they'll never know it.
Okay. And that's done, is there a period where they will be notifying people, like you just said, if someone passes a sensor and they get a letter, then 3 months later they pass.
If it's within the range of their renewing their tags or needing a new test, that's when they'll be notified.
Okay, but not if it's not in the range. And so how, I understand that, or
if it's not in the range, nothing will happen.
And the data won't be stored, so it'll be, or how does that work? It'll be held with the clerk's office in order to send the letter and then not kept in the system? Or is there a period of time that identification information will be kept in the health department or the county clerk's office to send the letter?
My understanding that the data is only kept minutes. I think maybe it's been a while since I've read it and had my discussion with the health department, but it's not kept very long. If you are due to test in December and you pass one of those and you pass in July, nothing will happen and that data will go away. You know, obviously 6 months later, your car may not be passable, so you wouldn't save that.
Well, the reason I ask is because we are conscientious about the retention of data as it relates to LPRs and on other legislation. And I think we should also make sure that we're including that kind of judgment on this one as well. So I just wonder if that hasn't been included, if it's something that we need to add.
I will defer to Councilmember Rosenberg. He may be a little more newly briefed on it, but the data, is my recollection, is very, very narrow, very short time frame where it's kept.
May I, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Thank
Please.
you. So first and foremost, no geographic data is being retained here. So nobody, and there will always be at least 2 units in use at any one time in different parts of the county. So there's no way of identifying somebody's location based on these, in contrast to the other LPRs that are being proposed for use for law enforcement surveillance. As far as the length of time, any data is being used long enough to send that letter if they pass, and that's it. It would just be the address. The fact that they passed is not going to say you passed on this date at this place or anything along those lines. It'll note that this vehicle passed inspection, sent it to the owner. That's it, and that's the end of the data. And then again, there's no kind of punitive activity at all. If you don't pass emissions, it's not even kept.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Councilmember Gamble?
Somewhat, yes. Thank you.
It's in the bill if we have a chance to look at it. Councilmember Henderson and then Bradford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my questions are similar to Councilor Gamble's. This is something that was shared with us via the health department and Mr. Sharp last term. And I know it's had a little bit of a through line on the LPR discussions, but I wanted to ask if, the health department could, some of the things that, Councilman Rosenberg is aware of, or Ms. Gamble's aware of, or you might be, Chair Nash. I would love to have just a 1-page or front and back, or just to understand how this technology works, how the health department intends to use it. I think we all know that our constituents don't really love every year having to go over there and kind of, sit in the line and go through the admissions process. But I think this council body said that retaining the ability to assess that was important, especially because situationally, geographically, we are in a basin. We want to retain our ability to maintain our air quality. But I remain somewhat confused about how this technology works. And so I would be interested to know, how the department intends to use it, how it works, what will be the wording of the letter that folks get. Will it be clear to them upon receipt of that letter that they don't have to go through the drive-through? Just the cost implications. I just feel like various people are having different conversations, and I don't feel like we as a committee kind of comprehensively understand it. So I didn't know if we could ask Mr. Sharp just to prepare something for us,
Sure.
Not particular to the passage of this legislation at this time, but because it will continue to have implications on the LPR discussion. Thank you.
Mr. Jameson, could you arrange that for us?
Absolutely. I've taken brief notes of Council Lady Henderson's request. I'm sure Tom Sharp will be eager to coordinate a meeting through the indulgence of the Public Works Chair and get that set up.
Thank you.
And
just a
Chair,
little.
Just so we're clear, I mean, again, at your discretion, Chair, I was hoping for just a one-pager with information. I'm not requesting a separate meeting. But again, at your discretion, Chair.
I hear you.
Understood.
The how-to for idiots, referring to myself only.
Actually, Chair, it's Councilmember Gamble. We do have a meeting scheduled on April 13th to discuss this. So it would be great if someone from the health department can speak at that meeting about the sensors as well.
Council Lady Gamble, for her portion of the joint committee meeting on LPRs is requested. Maybe Mr. Sharp be there. Can you look into that, Mr. James?
Yes, sir. I'd be glad to.
Thanks. Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies for all the questions tonight. So my question / concern, whether the sponsor can answer this or this is a Director Cooper or Mike Jameson question. So you're only going to get a letter if you pass, but you're only going to get that pass letter if it's within a certain amount of time prior to you getting your test. So how effective is this actually going to be? Say you pass one of these sensors this month, but your tag's not due until December. You're still going to have to go to the admissions to get tested. So can somebody explain how this is actually going to benefit? Because right now, based on these conversations I've heard, this isn't going to do anything. Anybody?
In my discussion with Mr. Sharp, there was where they have worked this before, there was a certain percentage of autos that were properly timed and were able to avoid going to line, but I don't know the exact number now. Mr. Jameson, I had your hand up for a minute. Can you speak more effectively to that?
Sure. So if I can keep my dogs at bay, just a quick summary. When Councilman Rosenberg first introduced legislation safeguarding against surveillance, this was way back in 2017, the health department was just on the verge of working with a vendor that had this new technology. What they were addressing were the constituents who were not fans of having to drive their cars at least once a year to get an emissions test and then wait for the letter or for the piece of paper documenting that they had passed. What the vendor was offering was a new technology where they could detect your ability to pass as you drove past a sensor on the interstate or wherever. So the benefit to constituents is they no longer have to make that annual trip, provided they happen to drive past a sensor and have a pass rate. So that's the intended benefit here. This legislation from Councilman Rosenberg really does nothing but make what I would call a housekeeping change to the ordinance, because Councilor Gamble, with a pretty impressive eagle eye, noted that there was a prohibition on connecting an individual with a geographic location and attributing it to that individual. And that makes it difficult to send them a letter that they passed. There is no letter indicating a lack of passage, because that struck some as perhaps veering towards a punitive use of this technology, which it was not intended to do.
Okay, so my other question is, how much money annually does the emissions testing bring into Metro? And if we're looking at, say, 20 to 30% reduction in people actually going through the process, how much money are we looking at losing out of our revenue stream?
Mr. Chair, if I can respond, what I would suggest is that be, I don't know that answer. Someone else on this line may have it, but if not, we can make sure the health department is ready to bring sort of the fiscal impact information to the April 13th meeting.
I would really appreciate that, because we're discussing how we're trying to make things more convenient and less of a burden to our constituents. But if this turns around and causes us to have to do something else with a tax rate or cutting of services because we're losing some money, then I feel like that's going to add the same amount of negative impact to our constituents than leaving this in place. So I really would appreciate some kind of fiscal note about how this could impact our budget or our finances.
Mr. Chair, this is John Cooper. We can certainly get that from the health department. It's my understanding that you would still pay the emissions testing fee. You just wouldn't have to go to the center if you happen to pass these, 2 times within a certain period of time. But so it's my understanding there would not be a fiscal impact to Metro.
Okay, so the letter would basically say you've passed, but you still have to pay the $9.
That's my understanding, but we can confirm that with the health department.
If we can get clarification on that, that might sway my vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. And thank you, Councilman Bradford. Seeing no other hands, Director Cooper, do you want to take the vote on this?
Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Bradford?
Abstain.
Evans?
Aye.
Gamble?
Abstain.
Henderson?
Abstain.
Hurt?
Aye.
Nash?
Aye.
McConnell?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
7 in favor, 0 against, 3 abstentions.
Thank you, Director Cooper. And let me see here where we go. Oh. All the rest of the agenda was on the consent agenda, so we are done. Thank you. On to the next meeting. Thank you, Director Cooper.
Stick around, Mr. Chair. Don't miss the thrilling traffic, parking, and transportation meeting.
Okay.